have to share a secret with you regarding this panel. This panel was supposed to look a bit different, as you can tell from the agenda. Steve told me about 2-3 hours ago that I was offered a promotion to become moderator instead of panelist. And I was thinking about it for a minute, and then I thought it's a great idea because it will allow me to ask many questions, and I will not be forced to give smart answers to complicated questions. And this is exactly what the job of a professor is about. So, sorry for you guys, you'll have to give the smart answers. I'll just ask the questions. I would like to start with all of you introducing yourself, telling our audience a bit about what you do, what your company does, and maybe you add one sentence explaining what interests you in AI and insurance. Alicia, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start. So my name is Alicia Braga. My background, I'm an engineer. I also studied AI a long time ago when I was quite boring and frankly kind of useless. The same models that were developed 20 years ago are existing now, it's just now we have more computing power. So right now I'm at Quandoo. Quandoo is a restaurant reservation platform. If you're trying to figure out what's the connection to insurance, there's none. But I'm in charge of building products, and we are on the path of building smart products. So I'm also in charge of business intelligence and data science at Quandoo. And my previous companies that I worked for were very customer-centric. I was an engineering leader for a company called Sugar CRM, and I spent some time at Google Cloud Division, helping other companies to build their journey to AI and machine learning. So yeah, that's me.
Hello, I'm Sten. I'm founder and CEO of Zego. We are a London-based company. I started my very first business when I was 17, back in high school, making paper notepads, and then done numerous other things since then. But before Zego, I was one of the early employees at Deliveroo, and there, essentially, the problem occurred for what now today is Zego. We offer essentially a flexible per-minute insurance for delivery drivers, for new mobility, and Uber drivers, and so forth. So there was a big problem onboarding drivers for Deliveroo and others, and we just developed a full-stack solution in 3.5 months, got regulated, launched almost 3 years ago. And today we insure 1/3 of the food delivery market in the UK. We operate in 5 countries now. We just 2 days ago launched an insurance product per minute for electric scooters you see all around. We focus on the kind of commercial insurance and mobility world to really enable the movement of be it items or people and do it flexibly, because this insurance is very kind of old school in a sense that it's just only annual policies, whereas we do it per minute. I think, well, that was last month we announced another large funding round, 42 million. For our Series B as well. So that's us.
Yes, my name is Flora Millar. I'm a partner with Bain&Company. We're a strategy consultancy. I'm heading our advanced analytics practice in EMEA, and my focus is insurance, and that's why I'm here today. We're working with incumbents in the industry, and we're trying to help them to tackle all of the challenges that come out of new technologies and really drive value and results that come out of data and analytics. So whether it's around building the strategy, building up an operating model, building up the capabilities, and driving distinct use cases. And what drives me and what excites me is how do you really get business results out of AI or machine learning? Because it's a lot of buzz and a lot of hype around it, and everybody's trying it, but really turning it into business results, this is what at least the incumbents are really still struggling with, and this is what excites me most, and how to turn it into business results.
Hello everyone. So I'm Radu Pruno. I'm a machine intelligence consultant at UiPath. So I have a technical background in data science, and after graduating, actually I'm a fresh graduate, I joined UiPath. So UiPath is actually a unicorn company founded in Bucharest, Romania. After we just secured the Series D funding this year, we have more than $1 billion investments in 2.5 years. We are the fastest growing software company in the world. And we do RPA, so that's robotic process automation. Just to be clear, we don't do any physical robots. RPA is just a piece of software that sits on top of our existing systems and is great at automating repetitive tasks. So we believe that we humans shouldn't be worried with, we should be worried more with our creative stuff, and anything that's boring and repetitive, that can be automated by the robots. And what interests me most in AI is what was said earlier, how we can actually bring AI in enterprise and in companies, because everyone recognizes AI as being the next big thing, but actually having AI at the production level is actually not such a great adoption.
So we are supposed to discuss the question product development, where is AI making the greatest impact? And we were discussing it shortly over lunch, and we thought that we don't want to let us be limited to the product aspect, because we pretty soon came to discuss process issues, efficiency issues, customer experience issues, sales and distribution issues. So I would be interested, what do you think is the area where AI might make the biggest difference from a customer perspective or from an insurance company perspective? You want to start, Radu?
Yeah, so I think the most important is how we tackle document understanding. So that's something that's agnostic to any industries. Any organizations have documents that they want to process, and actually understanding and extracting data from those documents is a big challenge. So we've tackled maybe structured documents, semi-structured a little bit, but we still have a long way to actually data extraction, tackling data extraction from unstructured documents. So I think this is an area where AI can make a great impact, and with the use of RPA to actually have a full circle automation in this respect. The way we ingest information and populate different legacy systems, or how we use that data that's already extracted with AI, that can be automated with the use of RPA.
Yeah, I totally share your view that on the entire process automation piece, there's a big impact of AI. But if I take a look more broadly on the value chain, then obviously claims is a very big lever. Just taking a look at the size of expenses that are associated with it, and just a little impact on the quality of fraud detection and claims handling has a huge impact on the P&L of any insurer. Obviously, underwriting and pricing is a big area, a topic where many insurers are still shying away out of regulatory reasons. Actuaries not being too fond of being at least partially replaced by machine learning. I think where I see big opportunities is around additional services and further personalization and customer experience. Because as you're listening to all of the new entrants into the insurance industry, there's obviously always the risk of disintermediation. And insurers are struggling and staying in touch with their customers and really providing a personalized experience. And how can you leverage the data that you have to provide additional services to your customers, whether it's around mobility ecosystems, health ecosystems, providing, based on the data and information that you already have, more personalized advice on how to stay healthy. I think it's a big theme which also allows insurers to get more in touch with their customers, which is one of the big struggles that the incumbents currently have. Because if you only have a claim once a year, or if you have a life insurance policy, you might never interact with your customer. I think this is where a big impact lies.
You want to add something?
No, I was just going to add from our side, which I think is very interesting, is pricing. There's not much. Insurance companies necessarily they understand it, but they don't want to necessarily take the leap and try pricing based on machines. They want to be able to control that. But this is where the huge advantage for this technology is, I feel.
Okay. We have heard three answers from more or less insurance experts here. You're from a completely different industry. What do you think where AI could have the biggest impact? Across industries, or if you have an opinion on the insurance industry?
I think in general, it's for me as a user, and also for someone who builds products, it's important to tackle the decision-making process. And decisions are built on maybe some sort of biases from humans. And when we talk about AI and how AI can help in decision-making process, be it in insurance regarding handling claims or for end users to solve what kind of product am I picking, is it the right product for me, personalized content. There's this one component of it. How can we help insurers and end users to make decisions that are data-driven and they can also trust those decisions? So the second part of it, how can we build AI that everyone can trust?
Okay. The aspect I'm spending most time thinking about when it comes to insurance and digitization or AI is sales and distribution. And there, in the German industry, probably across worldwide industry, there's two schools of thought. The one school is telling you, well, insurance is not bought, it's sold. We need insurance salespeople, we need agents and brokers, they will never go away, and you can just forget to try to sell insurance online unless it's for products where the customer has to buy the insurance, like motor liability. So one school is telling you nothing will change. The other school is telling you it is completely impossible that the next generation will still buy from old-fashioned agent or brokers their insurance. Forget it all, just build digital sales channels. The problem I have with both arguments is that they are telling you what's not happening. They are telling you it's not going to happen that it's sold online, and they are telling you it's not going to happen that the agents stay. The argument why the other solution is superior is a lot weaker. So I ask myself, how will insurance be sold in the future? And what should insurance companies do? Should they invest into empowering their existing agents and brokers with technology, with artificial intelligence? Or should they use artificial intelligence, new technology, to replace agents and brokers? And we have some experts here. Florian, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, and the truth sits exactly in the middle. And we see this also from the customer studies that we're doing. The future is hybrid. Customers want to do both, and they want to be able to choose. They want to choose whatever channel, and they want to have a similar experience, and they want to have a similar pricing and similar products that they're getting. And this is obviously where the challenge starts, because we, taking a look at the traditional incumbents, we come from a legacy world with established sales forces. We have commission levels which vary across the distribution channels. We have totally separated systems. Just creating a customer-centric 360-degree view is a big challenge, but you will need both in the future. So you need to enable your sales force, you need to tap into the online and mobile channel. It all needs to be seamless with a similar experience, and this is what it makes it so difficult. But it will not be either or, it will be both in the future.
Well, Sten, you are selling not through agents or brokers, right?
Well, we've got 40,000 customers, motor customers, who've all bought directly from us. And they're very incredibly happy. Like previously, they were buying it through aggregator websites or somewhere else, but they've come and bought directly from us because we've very simply explained what the product is and made the journey incredibly simple. So, so that's a clear kind of value add where you necessarily don't need a broker at all. On the other side, when we talk about the scooter companies and B2B side, there it really depends. It depends on the customer's understanding of insurance. So with some, we've worked directly with them, and we are easily able to explain what they're buying. But if they are not fully comfortable with the insurance kind of a language themselves, they sometimes want to involve a broker in there. And for us, that's fine. But fundamentally, I think that you don't really need a broker for a simple motor product. As the complexity increases with insurance product, that's where specific skills or experiences are needed, where it becomes more relevant, and that's where brokers are adding value. And I think fundamentally, brokers, the value add has been very low, or just nowadays with technology is diminishing, and brokers have to find other ways how they add value, because what's the point of being in this supply chain if the value add is diminishing or there is non-existent? So it needs to be the kind of what's the easiest resistance way. If customer can buy it, then it's simple to understand they should buy it direct. If they don't, then if they get so much more value add working with a broker, then broker is relevant. But I think that shift of a role of broker is going to drastically change.
So there will be change for the insurance industry. You could think that the insurance industry is in the best position to deal with a new digital revolution, because now it's all about data. And insurance for hundreds of years has been proud that it has a business model which is based on data. So insurers could think, and I'm afraid some do think, that they are the masters of handling data, while we are seeing business models like Amazon, Netflix, you name them, Spotify around us, where there's a new dimension of handling data. So I asked myself, what could insurance companies learn from other industries when it comes to deal with data? How do I make the most out of my data? How do I make sure that I can really tap the full potential of artificial intelligence? Alesia, can you help us with that?
I think the common mistakes that sort of bigger players make, be it insurance or banking, they do think like that. I have data, I have everything, so now I can do AI. And generally, the first step of getting to building smart products and understanding the data you have, and start doing data cleansing, understanding how can you use this data and what kind of use case you have to make products smarter. And if you have an answer that is tied to your business model and you actually have a machine learning use case, then great, then you can look at your data next. And it's great just to have the data, but understanding what you have, it's the key to solve the problem.
Okay. Radu, your company is providing services for insurance companies, but also for other industries.
Yes.
What can the insurance industry learn from other industries or from new services built around data?
So we have, I think, 100+ customers in insurance, but RPA in general is industry agnostic. So any kind of repetitive task you may have, that can be automated with the use of RPA. So I think other industries and that have started this digital transformation, and they understand that you have these repetitive tasks that can be automated, the low-hanging fruits. But these maybe matter for like 4 or 5% of your processes that can be automated. And with the use of AI and RPA, you can automate and digitize processes in the range of maybe 40% within your company. So I think this understanding that you have to think automation first. You have to somehow break the way you do things in order to make them better is key in human advancement in general.
And I think one point, and exactly as you said, on paper it looks as if all of the insurers are blessed with all of the amazing talent, and it's true, all of the actuaries that are highly skilled and highly sophisticated. But if you've worked in an industry for decades that is a long-term industry, and where you have a zero-defect mentality, because if you set up a wrong product, then you're fully tied in. Making the shift towards a test and learn approach that you need if you start coding and building up your machine learning models, I think this is the biggest culture and mindset shift which is required, and which is probably easier for the startups to deal with that versus when you're coming out of a culture of zero defect.
One objection I hear every once in a while is that the insurance industry is working with some sets of the most sensitive personal data, and that insurance companies operating in Europe have to deal with very strict EU regulations, which make it more difficult to build business models on big data, which set restrictions which other markets like China or the US might not have. How could that impact the emergence of data-driven business models? Would you like, Sten?
Sure. I think, if you take GDPR and all the other rules that have been put in place around data, it's important. And if you think from your individual point of view, you want to make sure your data is protected. But when you build a company, I think what's it's important when you build a company, you think about, you can't build a skyscraper, build 30 floors, and then realize, oh, I forgot to put in water pipes. You have to think about it as you build it from the ground up. And I think on our case, for example, data is such an integral part. We work with listed companies like Just Eat, Uber, and others. They send us a 100-page document how we need to kind of comply with data and so forth. So we have to make it part of our DNA, how we think about data, how we protect data, and how we structure that within the company. And of course, if you're a large company, you've been operating for 20, 30 years with your infrastructure, suddenly rules come in place, and then you need to start putting your water pipes outside the windows, and it's not going to look pretty, and it's not going to be scalable, for sure. And that's why I think startups, now they've got this advantage to build it this way by just making sure it's kind of inherent in them. Like even customer data, if customer wants the data, we now press one button, in like 2 seconds, all of their data gets presented, and we can share with the customer. I'm sure all of you have had some experience with GDPR, and it's a very, very cumbersome process. And I've heard some horror stories what has been put in place in order to kind of adhere to those rules. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a structural disadvantage that we have. So it's not holding us back on the individual use cases. There are always ways around and how you build consent and how you work with anonymization of the data. But if you take a look at it on a broader scale, and you were bringing up China, and if I take a look at Ping An with 1,200 data scientists and building up data assets upon 450 million users on Good Doctor, for example. This is just a tremendous data asset that they're building up, which they can leverage to build on additional services, and where we all need to see and how can we influence and help shape an environment which allows us to stay competitive and advance on AI and data.
Well, Omnius has invited us to this conference in the capital of Germany, and Germans are famous for many things. One thing Germans are famous for is the German Angst. Germans are afraid of many things, and they are skeptical when it comes to new technologies. So I try to imagine how a German customer might react to an insurance company which uses artificial intelligence for decision making, at least in some processes, and whether the customer would like that. And then I ask myself, how transparent do we have to be about it? Do we have to tell the customer that the service agent on the phone is an artificial intelligence machine? Or do we have to tell the customer that certain aspects of a decision-making in claims processing, fraud detection, are supported by artificial intelligence? How transparent does the insurance industry need to be about applying this technology, especially in an environment where German Angst is a phenomenon? You're not a German national, but you have lived in Germany for quite a while. What do you think?
I lived in Germany for 10 years, so that probably rubbed off a little bit, the German Angst. I think personally that we should be transparent and tell users what's being used. And there are multiple examples of this not working well. So one of the examples we had, for example, at Quandoo, we released a chat bot, which everyone wants to build a chat bot. That's kind of a fashion. And the best practices actually for building chat bots is to announce that, hey, I'm a chat bot. I can do 1, 2, 3. Because otherwise, people are just going to try to break it and ask fancy questions, trying to understand that is it a human? And so I think in order to make it successful and improve the technology, you should tell that, yes, we're using artificial intelligence and we're constantly evolving and improving this. I do understand also another side, though. In insurance, it can be a very sensitive topic. Because when you build a neural network, you cannot easily say how the decision was made if it's overly complex. So the questions from the customers will come. How did you make this decision? How did machine make this decision based on what? What can I change to change this decision? And you should be able to answer those questions.
So when I talk to insurance companies as a consultant or with startups every once in a while about implementing artificial intelligence solutions, I very often get the answer, okay, we already have a solution for that. We have an algorithm taking care of it. We have artificial intelligence in-house. And then we continue discussing it, and it turns out that, yes, they have some kind of computer system there, but mostly it's rules-based. It's not artificial intelligence. And then I ask myself, what is the best project to start with these guys? Should we address the A problems with the biggest potential? And usually they will have already some solution in place, which is a rules-based engine or anything. They have invested in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and they'll tell you, well, come back later, but we have just invested in this area. We don't want to try anything new. Or do I start with the B problems, where typically the potential is smaller, but then there is no solution whatsoever in place, and that means it is much easier to prove the benefit of artificial intelligence. And Florian, you're working as a consultant with these companies day to day. Give me some advice. How can we crack this industry open that they start implementing these things?
Yeah, so my advice is always pick something where you can be successful, where you can create a positive lighthouse. And I would always pick an area where you can generate positive business impact, because this is how you get the biggest excitement. And yes, you're totally right. There are a lot of areas where you have rules-based systems in place, but you often wonder how fast machine learning is able to outbeat the rules-based system. So I'll always pick an area where you have substantial business impact to create a positive lighthouse, but also where you have departments and people that are passionate about it and that will implement it. Because this is the biggest hurdle that we see, is creating a model which creates outstanding results is easy, but implementing and embedding it into the business process, this is where it gets really hard. So select a use case with high impact in an area where you know that you will easily get it implemented in the business process to get success really fast. Because no topic is as easily burned as AI if you do it wrongly in the first steps, because then everybody will say, told you it's not working, and then it's very hard to convince the rest of the organization.
But let me ask a bit more. From my understanding, artificial intelligence is also about being a bit patient. It needs some time to train the modules, and if you start with problems where you can have immediate success, a positive business case early on, these are probably not the biggest ones, right? I really see that it's difficult to convince insurers to say, okay, you're starting with an entirely new technology, you have to experiment with it, you have to experiment with relevant questions and not just with some toy projects. But then they say, okay, but if that means that we lose 10% efficiency for the first 6, 12, 18 months, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, so it takes time, but what takes time is the data engineering. That's typically the underestimated part, and I think we heard it earlier before, because this takes up 70% of your time typically. But you often wonder how big the impact really is. So we just did a project on claims management in health insurance, which is an established area where you have all of those rules-based systems around for multiple decades. But the system was able to outbeat the rules early on, even after the first training, because if you have the proper training set and the proper data in place, the starting point is quite similar to what the rules-based system is already able to do, but then will fast increase as it's self-learning over time. Yes, it will take more resources in the beginning, because you will surface more cases to take a look at, and that will drain your personal capacity that you have, but the business impact is actually quite high early on.
Okay. So what you guys cannot see in the audience is that we have a problem with the screen here. It's blinking in red, but it might just mean that we are running out of time. So I have one final question for my dear panelists, and that is, forget about your expert status and put yourself in the shoes of an insurance customer. So you as a customer, thinking about your experience with your insurer, in which area would you like your insurer to improve in the next 2-3 years by implementing AI-based solution?
So for me, I don't know, it was a millennium maybe, I want it completely automated and tailored for my needs. As simple as that.
Very similar. Imagine me leaving now here get on an electric scooter, then get in an Uber, then get on a plane, and then on the same on the other way. I don't want to think about insurance. I always want to be insured on every step of my journey, and it needs to be seamless. I would be very excited about that.
Yeah, for me it needs to be more personalized, tailored to my specific needs, and I want more than just the plain policy. I want more services around it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I think now in the age of so much data laying around about our customers, is it possible with the use of machine learning to have more personalized products tailored to individual needs? So that would be the top priority for me.
Well, thank you, everybody. We are minus 13 seconds on the clock, so thank you, everybody, and we'll give way on the stage.
Thanks very much. Give it up for a big applause here. Thank you, guys.